Bushido Shoshinshu, Code of the Samurai. Chapter 10. Horsemanship. In olden times, they say, warriors of all ranks considered archery and horsemanship the highest martial arts. Warriors of recent times concentrate on practicing swordsmanship, lancing, and horsemanship as essentials. As for other martial arts such as archery, shooting, sword quick draw, and jiu-jitsu, it is a matter of course for young warriors to practice them regularly mornings and evenings. When you get old, no matter what you want to learn, it doesn't go as you wish. For warriors of lesser rank, it is particularly desirable that they learn to ride well, so that they can ride any horse, even rambunctious or unruly horses. Let me explain. Fine horses easy to ride are rare, even if they exist, they are the mounts of great warriors, not found tethered in the stables of warriors of lesser rank. But if you master horsemanship, you can spot a horse that is good but is too rambunctious, temperamental, or unruly, and buy it for a low price. Thus you can always have a better horse than you could normally afford. Generally speaking, judging a horse's color and coat is something warriors of higher rank do. For a warrior of lesser rank, it is reasonable not to reject a horse because of the color or coat, as long as it is a good mount, he realizes, it makes sense to acquire it. A long time ago there was a warrior named Kakaganji, who worked for the establishment of the Murakami clan in Shin province. He was the commander of about 300 horsemen, skilled archers among them. It was his practice to choose for his mounts horses that ordinary people generally rejected for bad coats. Instead of having his warriors practice on the training ground, he would lead them into the fields outside the castle, 50 or even 100 horsemen at a time, Kakaganji himself in the lead. They would gallop this way and that over the plains, now seeming to fall off only to make a flying mount, now seeming mounted only to make a flying dismount, maneuvering so freely that they became famous as expert riders. Because of this, in those days even the Takeda clan of Kai province was wary of an opponent as redoubtable as Kakaganji of Shin province. This was very much to Kakaganji's credit. Generally speaking, according to tradition, a war horse should be of slightly more than middling height in the middle, with a head of middling size, and hindquarters of middling size. For a warrior of lesser rank, however, who has no spare mount, it is desirable that his one horse have a large body and be tall in stature, with a head as high as can be, and hindquarters as broad as possible. But to want to deform the horse unnaturally, stretching the sinews of its legs to give it a longer stride, or cutting the tail sinew to prevent it from raising its tail, is an eccentricity that comes from ignorance of the way of warriors. Let me explain. A horse with the tendons of its forelegs stretched tires easily when going uphill, on a long journey, or when crossing rivers, so it becomes useless. A horse with a stretched tail sinew will slip its crupper when crossing a gully or a canal, and it is traditionally said that a horse with excessively broad hindquarters is unsuitable for riding on a narrow path. There are two kinds of interest in horses, good and bad. Ancient warriors' interest in horses was in their necessity for maneuvering while heavily armed. For them, horses were substitutes for their own 2 feet. What is more, depending on circumstances, their horses could also be wounded or killed. Even though horses are animals, they pitied them and always took care to feed and curry them attentively. As for interest in horses these days, people think the idea is to buy intractable horses at bargain prices and retrain them, or pick out country-bred colts and train them, then wait for bidders to sell them for high prices. This is the mentality of traders. It is worse than having no interest in horses at all. The end of chapter 10.